Welcome to a football show, Monday edition, NFL Wildcard Weekend, Titans Coaching Search Edition. We are brought to you by Sinkers Beverages. That is Paul Kuharsky, paulkuharsky.com. I am Braden Gall. Paul, good to see you. How are you?
I am well. Thank you for having me, as usual.
Yes,
as is per our scheduled appointment together.
We're glad you're here. Yes, good afternoon, gents, says Bustin' Diamonds. If you want to get into the comment section and you have questions about the coaching search, this is your time to ask what do you want to know about this process and about these different individuals that are being interviewed. We have some updates, some reports that are lingering out there around a couple of candidates, namely John Harbaugh. Obviously, I can't wait to ask you later in the show a small media question that took the internet by storm this weekend. So we'll discuss that. And lots of other things. The playoff weekend, of course, we've got coaching candidates. We got all kinds of Titan stuff as well. Also some awards for Jeffrey Simmons and Chim DK. So lots of good stuff to do. Even if you are participating in Dry January, even if that is the case, like I am attempting to do, I don't know if I'm doing it perfectly. I'm attempting to do it.
Intentions, not resolutions.
That's right. Don't set yourself up with a pass-fail where psychologically you're just going to disappoint yourself. Just moderate your behavior slightly, and that will make you a healthier person. Even if you're doing that, PK, you can absolutely still shop at Sinkers Beverages. They have non-alcoholic beer right now is probably the best it's ever been. So if you want some non-alc beer, they've got lots of really good options over there. If you like the THC bevies, they've got those. They've got a whole corner over there that you can go get. I think after the new legislation, you can only really get it at liquor stores. So Sinkers Beverages is your spot to go get it. And, of course, they've got mocktail stuff, all the stuff you need to make all the best mocktails that your friends and family will enjoy, and yourself as well. So if you are attempting Dry January, and perhaps your favorite football team drove you to a cocktail Saturday evening, and you just violated that Dry January thing just one time, it's still relatively dry, and I still feel much better as a person. Hypothetically, of course, BK.
Yes. It's not in the spirit of dry, and you're violating. But we've discussed this previously, and people can go back.
Oh, no, I had alcohol.
That also is not in the spirit.
I had alcohol on Saturday night. I was very frustrated with Jeff Hafley, Titans fans. I was very upset with Jeff Hafley. Lots of stuff to get to. So if you guys want to get involved, we shall go. Can't wait to have the alpha Mike McDaniel as our head coach. I almost said Mike McCoy as the alpha, PK. You would have really
just the same.
I would have had another. You'd have gone for 15 more minutes talking about that. There we go. Dry January, drugs only though. There you go. Dry implies alcohol. That's all dry. Wet and dry is alcohol related. That's all that is. Let's say PK, what are your thoughts on the Jags reporter? Don't spoil it, Bustin. Don't spoil it. I'm gonna rile them all up later on in the show. I don't want to do it right now. So here we go. Is that a rum and Coke?
No, it's a Coke, a Diet Coke and Diet Coke.
Yes, C. Wagner, Hafley did coach a good first half. The problem is all of the second halves and fourth quarters against the Bears have been bad. So were the ones against the Ravens. And he's a good coach. He is just not a great one. And I think half the Packers fans would be fine if the Titans hired him away. Always a great sign. Ask Memphis fans when Arkansas hired Ryan Silverfield and all the Memphis fans celebrated. That's not what you want. You don't want the team you're taking the coach from to be happy you're taking the coach. You don't want that. All right. First and foremost, congratulations to Jeff Simmons and to Chim DK. First team All AP, All Pro. So totally worthy. Arguably the best season. Can you try to the context of Jeffrey Simmons' season, not just within his own potential and his own growth and his own journey, but just relative to great defensive linemen on this team, whether it's Jarrell Casey or Javon Curse, or they've had a number of them. I'm sure there's a lot more that I'm leaving out. Where does a first-team All-AP, All-Pro season for a defensive lineman where he was, you could argue was the best defensive lineman in football, certainly the best defensive tackle in football this year?
3 votes short of unanimous, which is really saying something. If you get to unanimous, I don't know, what those other 3 people saw, but he had a dominant season. He missed 2 games.
Really?
That's cropping into my head. Very, very effective. Maybe as good a season as a Titan has had outside of Derrick Henry. As I can remember, I've got proximity bias and not a great memory. But outside of those all-purpose yardage years are hard to characterize. So Mason, you would put there, but I think Javon Curse's defensive rookie of the year season is right there, is better. But I think it's hard to find many seasons outside of Derrick Henry's top seasons that Jeffrey Simmons did not top this year. A standard that's going to be hard for him or anybody on the defensive side of the ball to surpass based on what their position allows for. Yeah. So hard any complaints about what Jeff Simmons did this year.
Got the record, of course, in the last game there with a sack for sacks by a defensive tackle. I believe it was Jarrell Casey's record that he broke for the franchise. Just an extraordinary year, and I think what I really enjoy about what he did, PK, is that you hear of this. How many times in training camp do you get to training camp and you hear like, "Oh, I spent all off season drinking kale smoothies, and I've lost weight, and I'm a new man, and I've done." It happens in every sport, all across the ranks. People show up invigorated and motivated to prove something to somebody, and I've changed this, I've changed that, and so much. You write about it, you talk about it. It's a talking point. It happens, and by midway of the season, it's forgotten. It's sort of a thing that you talked about in the summer because there was no games. And then all of a sudden you get into games and like either the player's the same or maybe he's marginally better or marginally worse, and it just kind of disappears. This is one of those few times where that was a large conversation about him. And not only did he deliver on that part of the game on the field, but it seems like he actually delivered on all the things people like you and I have been asking to see from him off the field as well. It's a big, big season for him, not just because of the contract and because of the performance, but because of where he is located. Now, he is entrenched now as the dude in the organization, and that I don't think you could say that about him at the start of the season or last year.
Steve McNair's MVP season, I obviously should have mentioned, and somebody's pointing out Chris Johnson's 2,000-yard season. So those seasons would obviously be ahead of what Simmons did. But yeah, you're right. Guys show up talking like that every year, and proves hollow or turns out to fade. And those are regular off-season conversations. Thinnest I've ever been, strongest I've ever been, healthiest I've ever been. I started putting something in my food, which he did. With
he probably did dry January. I mean, honestly, turmeric is what you're looking for.
Turmeric, yeah. Turmeric. I want to say turmeric for some reason. It looks like turmeric, but it's turmeric.
Turmeric sounds like a defensive player.
Yeah, and it's all over my. I start looking for some weight loss stuff on Reels after the season's over, and turmeric is all over now. I can't sit down to doom scroll without going down a rabbit hole.
Is that because of your search for your own personal stuff, or because it's in Jeffrey Simmons' conversation?
No, because of my own search. I think I've set myself up to have some really long videos on
strange yellow herbs.
The right weightlifting programs and the right eating programs and everything. I need a separate account to look for certain rabbit holes so that they don't invade my life.
You got to curate that algorithm, man. You got to curate that algorithm. Look, a man of your age, you need some recovery time in between. Like don't do the interval training too many times in a week. Like maybe once a week, maybe twice a week at the most. Okay,
3 times.
And don't put turmeric in anything that'll stain because it'll just make all your shit yellow.
Putting it here.
Yeah, fair.
Here in the mouth.
Well, you have to like mix it in the food. I'm saying, like in a bowl or whatever. Like it'll stain your bowls. Like I'm just saying.
I think I'd take it in a capsule.
Oh, you're just gonna take the pill? Okay. I don't know how turmeric. That sounds like some Gwyneth Paltrow shit to me. Weight loss stuff and Reels is how you end up with leeches in your smoothie. Be careful.
Be careful. There's another one there.
I'm showing you on that one.
is getting midday 180 flashbacks of when I went through one of these systems, and the boys insisted what I was doing was a cleanse. I had to, for weeks and weeks, insist it was not a cleanse. And we sent the intern into another room to watch the 40-minute video that I got sucked in by to come back to conclude whether or not it was a cleanse. And she had, I think, a difficult time making it through what I had watched in front of my TV to deem whether or not it was a cleanse. I think she came back and said it was not a cleanse.
Have you thought about doing what Rogers did, the Panchakarma, the 7 to 10 day resort cleanse where you are just you're empty. You're just empty at the end of it.
I think my wife is pretty sure that the life I'm living is already at a resort. And I will not be going to a resort for a cleanse.
I got you. Yeah. Braden, did you say turmeric will stain your no, your bowls. Your bowls. Todd Bowles. Think Todd Bowles. All right, this show is already off the rails, which I appreciate on a Monday. So congratulations to Simmons and Jim DK. Great season by DK.
DK, hell of a 4th round pick.
Yeah.
I mean, Borgonzi's number one thing, probably.
Yeah, there you go. So I want to quickly, before we get into the coaching search, I want to touch on, is there anything from the weekend that you learned from football? I mean, obviously, somebody asked a really good question about the Titans coaching search in the comments here, which is from Z Dean. Fair or foul, assessing head coaching candidates based off playoff performance, specifically Shula, Hafley, and Minter. I know a lot more about Hafley. I certainly would not take the playoff thing as the thing that matters, but I would put it into a group of other things that matter, and certainly it's the most important one. And the problem with Hafley is that that's kind of been the issue with that defense for the season, not the least of which, I mean, not Parsons being injured is a factor here. You have to include that. But 445 yards, 25 points in the fourth quarter. They did the same thing in Baltimore, same thing to the Bears the week before that. Couldn't get stops in key games against Carolina running the football, or even Cleveland early in the season. He's a good coordinator. He's a really good coordinator. I've never understood the allure of him as a head coach, and that's not specifically because of the playoff game. It's just a part of the evaluation.
Well, I would also say, Hafley's in the context of what LaFleur consistently does, which is puts his defense in tough spots where they have to have stops because he doesn't run 4-minute, because he doesn't turn off his yesterday they continued to throw some home runish passes at times where they should have been giving the ball to Jacobs, but Jacobs wasn't running great. So you could kind of understand why he's not doing that. They're running out cuts that take people out of bounds and stop the clock instead of stuff in the middle of the field that's guaranteed to keep the clock running. And so your major beef with that in that game, I think, is that LaFleur does what LaFleur does. LaFleur is who LaFleur is. He needs to kind of had a huge self-scouting session and evaluate what he does in these games with the lead that then would put his defense in a better position. And then Hafley, would be dealing from a better position as a coordinator where he's not all powerful. And I think if Hafley's a head coach, he would be advising his coordinator not to do those things that leave the defense in a bad position.
I think Matt LaFleur is a absolutely brilliant offensive mind. His offenses are still 85, 90th percentile in success rate. I think he's taken a quarterback who is solid and made him very good. I think he takes receivers who are late second round, early third round picks who are solid and nothing special and makes them great, productive players. He finds tight ends and running backs whenever he drafts them. And he saves game plan pieces for critical moments. They went right down the field twice when they had to in the fourth quarter when they had to get points. They went right down the field, missed a field goal, went right down the field and couldn't finish a drive. The offense has never been the problem. The play calling has never been the problem. It's actually a glorified Brian Callahan situation to some degree. It is the things that I think the Titans are looking for, and Nick articulated this very well on Thursday. Like all the things that Callahan didn't have, right, are probably the things that the Titans are looking for, right? It's leadership over scheme, right? It's experience versus coordinating. It's those types of things, and those are the things that I think Matt LaFleur is struggling with right now. if you are trying to evaluate truly his situation. It is mental toughness, special teams, a little bit of management in the last 5 minutes of that game. Like, so again, I don't want to overreact. And Hafley, I don't think it's as much the offense putting the defense in a bad situation. I mean, look, you had 6 fourth downs. You could have stopped Caleb Williams at any point. So, like the Niners yesterday got the stop, right? The Eagles were going right down the field. Looked like the Eagles were going to win the game, maybe come back and score and take the league. Defense made plays, and they don't have they have all their players injured too.
Yeah, but I think Hurts is on a season-long, de-escalation, and Williams is on a season-long escalation. I think you're only playing who you're playing, but the Packers to me had a more difficult task.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, Caleb has been very good in the fourth quarter. There's no question about that. But you know how many? My favorite stat from the weekend. You already know this, but I'm doing this for the audience. The number of snaps in 3 games between the Bears and Packers. The number of snaps that the Bears offense ran with the lead, 0. The Packers, 106. That's more than 2 full games of snaps. That's an insane thing to have lost twice. So I put that on LaFleur and Hafley and everybody else. So I don't know. It's just they're not a mentally tough team. And Robert Saleh has said as much about Matt LaFleur's teams. And I would go Robert Saleh over Jeff Hafley in 2 seconds.
Oh, I would too. I mean,
2
but
seconds.
I would have done so before this Bears game.
Exactly.
In terms of the broad question that got this started, you can't if you're Borgonzi have recency bias and let one game, give you some heavy lean on what your feeling is about a guy. I mean, you're inviting these guys to your room last week before this game, so
right.
You're not then determining your feeling about them based on the one game.
Tony says the Titans need to very seriously consider hiring Jesse Minter. I believe he's the best choice out there. Buston says Jesse Minter or Robert Saleh, who showed more this weekend. Miami made a mistake by firing McDaniel, says another commenter here. Let's see here. Ben Johnson's decisions make no sense, and he keeps winning. I tend to agree with that. I don't care about LaFleur's weakness. I put him at number 1 over anyone we can get. Packers are being smart, acting like they want to keep him. They don't. They just don't want to fire him when they can get a draft pick. Yeah, he's got 1 more year under his contract, so they want to renegotiate that contract.
I don't think Schefter delivered any new news this morning. The Packers were going to consider whether to sign him to an extension after the season, and he reiterated that this morning.
Yeah. The real news is around Harbaugh, honestly, and that is, and so I guess ultimately I think your point about they requested all these interviews before the game. That means they can't think that the game is the most important element to all of this. So it's just another piece of data. You file away, you bank intel about these guys. The story that's coming out of New York is that according to other coaching candidates, that John Harbaugh is narrowing it down to the Giants and the Falcons. Are you buying that? And is Harbaugh the thing that Titans fans should be? I got into multiple discussions about this because Jay Glazer reported over the weekend that the Titans coaching job is far more attractive than I think I'll call them the casuals think. Not most of the media, I think, is on board with this being a pretty decent job by and large. I think it's been way blown out of proportion trying to rank these teams against each other. I think there's only 32 of them. It's way more attractive than people think. And that's the report from Glazer. That's what I've been saying on this show for weeks and weeks and weeks. I got people saying it doesn't matter unless it's John Harbaugh. And I'm like, John Harbaugh is not like James Foster on Hot Read said John Harbaugh would not be his choice. So I think it's more attractive than people think. That's one part of this story. The second part of the story is how upset or how important is John Harbaugh in the entire conversation?
Well, I like John Harbaugh a lot because he's CEO coach and he's going to come in and he's got the stripes not to put up with any bullshit, right? Which may be part of the reason that the Titans wouldn't hire him because Amy Adams Strunk is not going to say, yes, I will not be involved here and I surrender authority to you to the degree that you want. He is not a scheme guy on offense or defense. He came up as a special teamer. Now he's obviously learned a hell of a lot in 18 years, but he is going to set a standard that is what you want. And he's a magnet in terms of pulling staff. They would have the best staff that they've ever had, probably, with his pool. So I like him in that regard. And I don't believe, it quickly turned into his demands. Tony Grossi's a good reporter. I certainly believe he was told those things, but $20 million isn't that far off his salary. He's making 17. Andy Reid's making 20. I don't think he'd match Andy Reid, but I think he'd probably come close. 10 million for staff. Nobody really knows what the best staff in the league makes. It's probably Reid's, but we don't know what that number is. Total control of personnel. I find it hard to believe will ask for total control of personnel. He was with the best personnel department in the world and has to have known how much he benefited from that. And to say, screw Ozzie Newsome and screw Eric DaCosta, I want that, is a hell of a bridge to cross and a hell of amount of work to take on. And then to want your own GM. Well, look, there's only one job of these open jobs that doesn't have a GM in it right now, which is Atlanta, which is the reason people are connecting him with Atlanta. But he has to like Matt Ryan a lot for that to work. Mm-hmm. You could pull a thing with like Liam Cohn, who had none of his leverage, pulled with the Jaguars last year to get Trent Baalke fired, to get Joe Shane fired in New York. But otherwise, I think what he really wants is to like the people that he's working with and to have a good deal of input. And it's completely possible that he would have that with Mike Borgonzi. For Titans fans saying, give him whatever he wants, you're basically saying strip Mike Borgonzi of the power that you've given him. And again, they're trying like hell to build something. They finally have someone in Mike Borgonzi. I think it would be ridiculous to say, no, this plan that we started with Mike Borgonzi, we're going to scrap that because we feel we can get somebody in this other lane who's really good. And so we're going to undo that and demote him. And if he doesn't want the demotion, then we'd have to fire him. That's silly to me. But I think John Harbaugh could do a lot to raise your floor to a really high level. He goes to the playoffs 2 out of 3 years.
Yeah. So you're saying you don't think that the Titans are out of it yet for John Harbaugh?
No.
And I think what is interesting is that report specifically said these coaching candidates they like Cam Ward and Mike Borgonzi. I'm paraphrasing, but that was the report from Glazer that they like the young quarterback and they like the general manager down there. And so look, here's the thing. The picture that I have been painted that has been painted for me, we've talked about this behind the scenes, is a way more buttoned up front office department, much harder working, much more organized, much more attention to detail. Everyone has their role and they're all pulling in the same direction is sort of it's much more organized is sort of the picture that's been painted for me. I'm sure you've got the same kind of thing. That was not Chad Brinker. That was not Rand Carthon. And frankly, that wasn't really John Robinson, but that's the way it's portrayed, is that's how things are working now. And that's likable. People like predictability. They like stability. They like consistency. They like to know what to expect about things. And if you know football, that's kind of the last piece of this. If he does
now, how in love they are with John Harbaugh, we don't know. Look, they're talking to 13, 16 guys, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they want to go through this entire process. They're not going to, cut everything off in order to, and I don't think they talked to him before, probably the latter part of the week, which is good for them based on their schedule and everything. But I don't get the impression that they're like the fan base, like, oh, we got to get John Harbaugh or else. I think they feel like they have a lot of good candidates, 2 of them, at least 3 of them. I don't think Raheem Morris will emerge as a prime candidate, but Kevin Stefanski, is also a well-regarded former head coach, not with the success of John Harbaugh. And Mike McDaniels is a former head coach who I think they like and who is a different kind of guy. So if they don't get John Harbaugh, don't convince yourself that they can't come out of this with somebody good.
Oh, I think so I said this on the show on Thursday. If Matt Nagy and Arthur Smith are your worst possible situations, you're in a really good spot. Like, you don't have to go below Matt Nagy on the list. You don't have to go below Arthur Smith on the list. And there's names that they've interviewed. Most of them, in fact, are below those guys on the list. Jason Garrett below. Mike McCarthy coming up would be below. I would put Jeff Hafley below. Mike McCoy definitely below. Lou Anarumo below. Vance Joseph, Raheem Morris, Spagnuolo, all below Matt Nagy and Arthur Smith. Kevin Stefanski above. Robert Saleh above. Mike McDaniel above. John Harbaugh above. The point, you pick your best coordinator, PK. I like Chris Shula and I like Clint Kubiak. Those are two. If I had to pick one to top the list of coordinators, those would probably be the two I like the most. Those guys are above maybe Nagy and Arthur Smith. You could do a lot worse with Matt Nagy and Arthur Smith as the worst possible choices.
And they haven't even requested Kubiak. So, yeah. I thought, as the season was winding down before we knew who was fired, like, this is, not the greatest sounding pool, but there are guys that you don't know much about who get head coaching jobs and take off every year. So it's going to be like that. But then you throw into the mix that Harbaugh is a candidate, that Stefanski's a candidate, that Miami makes a late move and he becomes a candidate. And all of a sudden, there are a lot more jobs open, but nobody's gone back to where they were fired. And none of those jobs. I think Miami's a relatively attractive job. Atlanta, maybe an attractive job. And Baltimore, obviously, I think is the plum job in this. But like you said, the list is long enough of good candidates that the Titans should wind up with a good coach.
They have requested Arthur Smith. They've requested Chris Shula, Jesse Minter. They've requested Cliff Kingsbury, Robert Saleh. They have, I believe, on Saturday they'll get Mike McCarthy. On Saturday they'll get Jeff Hafley, and on Wednesday they'll get Mike McDaniel. And this is right here what I think Glazer's report was ultimately about. Big 2033. Every dysfunctional franchise is just one quarterback and general manager away for being a hot spot. That is the life in the NFL. Every one of these jobs is just straight up better than you think it is. And every coach has an ego and thinks they can fix every problem. I don't think Burke Nihill is a factor in this any longer in terms of football power. And I think Amy Adams Strunk has realized, hey, we got a football guy here. Let's Mike Borgonzi do this. And then I'll come in at the end and shake hands and kiss babies and be an owner. If not, then
hopefully.
But I don't think she is the fact. She's not turning. She is not some stench that is keeping people from looking at the franchise. That I think the average Twitter fan thinks is the case.
No, she's not. But her son-in-law is in these meetings, I think, and he's going home and whispering.
I don't want to know when that's happening.
And so
that's the pillow talk right there, PK.
Yeah, that can still be a negative factor. You have to root against that having having effect.
Titans MG. I agree. Titans job is better than being projected. Borgonzi, Cam, new stadium, cap space. Biggest issues, the defensive rosters in shambles. I tend to agree with that. Also, by the way, no income tax. Nashville's a great place to live, very desirable place to live. There's lots of upward mobility in the division, despite the fact that Jacksonville and Houston look pretty good right now.
It's not Arizona.
Right, exactly.
Of divisional competition.
It looks brutal, yeah. All right, so let's see here. Mike McDaniel, there's been a couple of you guys in the comments that want to talk about Mike McDaniel. Look, he's an interesting character. He's a brilliant offensive mind. I would prefer Robert Saleh with Mike McDaniel or Kevin Stefanski maybe. I don't think he would come in with Stefanski because of the offensive side, but a defensive-minded head coach, Saleh, with an offensive guru, OC. I don't know if he'll take that if he's got head coaching offers, obviously. So the question is do you like Mike McDaniel enough to pick him as the head coach over a few others? And I think that's the interesting debate with him.
I think he's probably getting a head coaching job here. It feels like based on the reaction to his firing nationally. I'm not certain. And I would think, I don't know how anxious he is to keep his foot in it. I could see him, taking a year off if he wanted to and lining himself up, rehabilitating the image a little bit during his year away. But he's attractive in a lot of ways for more than offensive coordinator. I think.
I'm very torn on him because I think he is an asset to your staff, and because he has head coaching experience, I think he checks a couple of boxes from what Mike Borgonzi wants. If it's the leadership, CEO, culture building thing, that's where I kind of go. Is that the guy you're going after? Is that the guy you want? I think he's proven in a lot of categories. I don't know if he's proven in that one.
Yeah. To what degree did he fail to build a culture? Look at the end. Look at the beginning, not at the end. Of what he did in Miami, because things obviously went south in some uncontrollable ways, as they do for all these guys. The Tua thing was a big deal. Tua turned out to, he was saying some things out there that he should have been saying that weren't helping the culture. He wasn't playing well, and the concussion thing was a huge obstacle for them, and his propensity to get hurt, and the record with and without him was a big difference. They didn't have backup quarterbacks that got the job done there. A lot of teams don't. But I mean, that is a big question. Him as a culture builder, and he's not the alpha I'm looking for in a lot of ways, but I don't know. I'm intrigued by him.
Every player we'll go with the offense here. Almost every major key player got better under Mike McDaniel.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's even Tyreek Hill, who was elite for Kansas City, still got better and had an extraordinary season for Miami. Jalen Waddle got better. The running game, the running backs, he took Devin Achane and turned him into a rock star. Tua got better. Here's one. Even Quinn Ewers looked serviceable.
Darren Waller, who now is kind of old and beaten up, and when he was healthy for games this year, he was producing.
He's a great offensive
really well.
Yeah, there's no question. Again, it kind of flies in the face of what I don't know about you. I just have felt like they have a certain type of guy they're going for, and it's the stuff that's kind of opposite and was missing from Callahan, which is traditionally how things work. And he doesn't really hit those marks for them. If he wants to come in as the OC, you'd be a total fool to turn him down. But I agree with you. I think he has 4 head coaching interviews already, and there are 8 jobs. So he's going to get a crack at something if he wants one.
He's close with Dan Quinn. If he winds up an offensive coordinator, now Washington's already promoted. I don't know why they were ran like that. So I thought that was a place that he could wind up, but they've made their move. So that increases the chances that he'd go with if he doesn't get a head coaching job. And 4 interviews, I don't know. I like his chances with 4 interviews. If he doesn't get a head coaching job and he wants to coordinate, Robert Saleh is one of his guys. Aaron Brewer is another guy we should mention that got substantially better with him.
Sergeant Bubbles points that out in the comment section. Great name there. Let's see here. Sammy says, wonder if he could get someone like Raheem Morris to come run the defense. I'd be intrigued by that. You're talking about Mike McDaniel, I assume, Sammy. Don't see Raheem getting a 3rd crack at head coach so he can make sense as a long-term kind of DC. Could be a steal. QC says, I thought people were saying he started getting better in the locker room as a head coach. Maybe I'm confusing him with somebody else. Afternoon, gents. Hello, Daniel. There you go. Of the names that have been interviewed, I want to ask you this, BK. McCoy, Garrett, Nagy, Spagnuolo, Morris, Stefanski, Anarumo, and Vance. How many of those names are legitimate candidates for this? Nagy.
Let's go slower. Nagy is.
Stefanski,
I would hope is.
McCoy, Garrett, Spagnuolo, Raheem Morris, Vance Joseph, Lou Anarumo. That doesn't feel like a serious list.
Maybe Joseph. I mean, certainly week 2 is backloaded, if you will, in this in the direction that they're going. I
mean, look at all the names on these coaching staffs that are still out there, that are still playing. These are very attractive. I mean, I assume the Jesse Minter request will be acknowledged now that the Chargers have been eliminated, because you wait 2 days and then you can interview, right? Hafley's already got his interview scheduled. You've requested Saleh, but you can't get him. Chris Shula, you can't get him either.
Well, you can zoom them. Mary Kay Cabot, Jabari is saying here, has refuted reports saying that Harbaugh's limited his choices to Falcons and Giants. And that's early. I mean, Harbaugh said on the record somewhere that he was taking the weekend to sort out his options. Now, a lot of people took that as wanting to see if LaFleur got lost and got fired, and if McDermott lost and got fired. So, we'll see if there's any development on the Packers front. What's your gut feeling on that?
That they have 1 year left on the contract. There's no reason to let him go if they can trade him. Like if they don't want him bad enough, they can probably flip him for like a 3rd round pick or something.
It's very complicated to do that, especially when there are this many openings and this many other good head coaches. So if I'm into LaFleur, I'm saying, well, I'm into LaFleur, but I'm also into Harbaugh and Stefanski, and I'm not giving up a 3rd until I don't get Harbaugh and Stefanski. So that's slowing things down for the Packers, who probably would like to get about their own search, which would include Harbaugh and Stefanski maybe. And is it worth going through all of that for a 3rd? That's kind of where the Titans were with Vrabel.
I think that. So I think they're totally comfortable bringing him back. That's the thing. I think that's the one difference, is that they don't have any patience. Like, they don't need to be impatient about it. They can just sit there and go, yeah, we'll get the contract. You're under contract for next year. We'd like to renegotiate with you, but we're going to proceed as you're the head coach. And if we get an offer, we'll consider it, and then maybe conduct our search. But based on the good names that are out there, I mean, to your point, if they're trying to go get John Harbaugh, then they need to physically make a trade and go out there and beat the pavement to try to get him moved. But my thought is that there's no chance they fire him. It feels very slim, because you can keep him, and he's still better than most of these candidates that we're talking about. And also, you give yourself a trade chip in theory. So it seems very unlikely that you would just get rid of him for nothing.
Here's an interesting thing about our world today, and this applies to everything. I mean, we've seen it in the media. Like, a guy gets far enough along in his job and he's good enough at his job, it's virtually impossible, unless you're a special kind of boss. And I don't know about policy and what kind of boss he is. But like, you look at like Stephen A. Smith, the media, the huge media guys, they're their own bosses, kind of. Like, you can't call Adam Schefter into a room at this stage of his career, or even 5-6 years ago, and ask him to revise how he operates, because he's the guy he's more powerful than his boss, right? And I'm not saying LaFleur is more powerful than his boss, in that his boss can hire and fire him, give him a new contract, which he's going to get. If he stays for this last year, policy's made it clear he's not going to have lame duck coach or GM. So if he stays, he's getting a new contract.
Yep.
But it seems to me like Matt LaFleur is a good enough, well-established enough coach that if you're keeping him, he is what you're getting. Doesn't seem to me like policy could call him in and sit down and say, look, I love you. You've done a good job for us, and I'm going to give you an extension. But I really want you to self-examine this, and this, and change how you coach in these situations. Seems like once you hit a certain mark, not just as an NFL coach, as anything,
as a human,
once you're good enough at whatever you do at a high level, nobody can tell you to change without risking getting a fuck you back.
Well, but is it okay? But the best people are great at looking in the mirror and self-evaluating.
Well, they are, except that he's not done it, right? or that Harbaugh, who's lost in the playoffs enough to get himself fired with a team they felt like underachieved, didn't do it to the degree that he got himself fired. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I've also these media people who a lot of people hate, but still bring eyeballs, but their bosses don't necessarily love the way they operate, or some bosses don't. That's what you get. If you don't want that, take your chances on them going to Fox, or the revolt that comes from their very loud lovers as opposed to their quieter detractors. Take it or leave.
Yeah. I guess I just believe in like forward progress as like a concept, and that if you're not doing something to move forward, like complacency is just like against my religion or something. I don't know. And that's partly because I've had to adapt in my career. Like that's been forced on me through my own behavior or other people's decision making. And so you just kind of, I guess that's just it, like Saban did it as a coach. The great coaches do it. And I think to be great, Matt LaFleur specifically needs to look in the mirror and be like, I need to address special teams.
I think it's a matter of degree, though. Like, I think he'll say, yes, I've got to work on these things and we've got to fix these things. But the degree to which he feels like they do is not going to be as big as the degree to maybe his bosses or certainly the fan base feels like. And he can say, look, if we get in the tournament, 1 year we're going to pop in the tournament. And other people could say, you need to get the number 1 seed in the tournament or the number 2 seed in the tournament and not sneak into the tournament as the number 7. Yeah. You're doing that too often. And what does he say to that? I'm curious.
Jabari mentions this smart here. Harb's consulting with Denard Wilson, I'm sure, unfiltered version. Look, as I said with Nick on Thursday and with you on Monday, every single coach knows every single other coach. And if they don't reach out to Mike Vrabel to ask about the Titans or Denard Wilson or anyone else they happen to know.
Brian Callahan. They're consulting with Brian Callahan also.
They all have each other's numbers, and they're all saying, hey, what do you think about this? That's how coaches function and operate. But for the sake of the conversation, there's 2 of you that have kind of asked this. And so I'm gonna set this up. Sammy says, if the Titans were to go that route, which is trading for Matt LaFleur, how much would you be comfortable giving up for LaFleur? Now, here's the better question, I think, to kind of take Sammy's one step further, which is Daniel says, after Harbaugh, Stefanski, McDaniel, and Saleh, which I think are the 4 probably at the top. I like Flores a lot. I don't think the Titans are in on him.
Is he interviewing with anybody?
I don't know.
Have we heard his name?
Baltimore, maybe, I thought.
Yeah, maybe.
The other 4 teams will be on the outside looking in to some extent. That's when a Matt LaFleur trade would be realistic, but that may be too late for the Packers. I do think that is an interesting way to frame the conversation. If you went after Harbaugh, he takes the Giants job. You go after Saleh, and he takes the Falcons job. Stefanski takes the Miami job, and then you're looking at McDaniel, and he takes the Arizona job. All right? So now what do you look at? You still have Arthur Smith and Matt Nagy as your fallback plan, which is a good place to be. Is there an amount you would trade to go get LaFleur over trying Chris Shula or trying one of these retreads or trying, Jeff Hafley? Like, why would you go get Hafley if you could go get LaFleur? Like, what's the number there in your mind that's like it's not worth it?
Yeah, I would trade
second round pick.
I would trade a third. I don't know. I mean, the right coach solves everything. In hindsight, you'd say a second was nothing if it worked out, right? But they need a lot of players, buddy. They need a lot of players, and on the front end, it would be hard to do it.
The thing that makes me interested in LaFleur in that situation is his ability to take second, third, fourth round offensive pieces and turn them into very productive, dependable starters. In his system, I think the reason Jordan Love has been productive is because his system maximizes all of the pieces. He that's the one thing you are going to get with him. To your point about knowing what he is, you might have some special. Now, if you could also promise me Bones Fossil with LaFleur, then I'm starting to really be interested in, because like if I'm a Packers fan, I want to go hire Fossil.
Well, how could right LaFleur not want to inherit Bones Fossil? We're talking about him knowing his shortcomings. So I think he certainly would. It's hard not to look at what he did with Willis, Malik Willis, and
like look at all those players: Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, Downtavius Wicks, Tucker Kraft. None of those players picked in the first round. I think only one was picked in the high second round. They're all like third round picks or later. And he knows how to use them all. And he's got a bunch of guys that are, look at Helm and Io Manor and DK. And like, there's pieces there that he could start. He would come back and draft a lot of them, but he could start. And and look at what LaFleur did with Malik Willis. He is a brilliant to me, he's very similar to McDaniel, but like a better, more accomplished version, which is great offensive mind. There's some flaws in there that we're not sure about, but he's the guy who got to the playoffs without his 5 of his best players this year. And McDaniel's fired. So I would take LaFleur over McDaniel in 2 seconds.
More normal personality. We think Sirianni is surviving this. Somebody raised his name.
I don't know why you would fire him, but
59 and 26.
A lot of talent there, but took over a bad Eagles team and turned him into a winner. I think Sirianni's pretty good. I don't know why he would be available, but that's kind of the trend of this coaching. If we're talking about LaFleur gone, Stefanski and Harbaugh, talking about Tomlin, the whole trend of this coaching search is that these good coaches have moved on. Like
tonight could be telling for Tomlin, but it sure seems like from what I've read, I don't know if you agree that if he's out, he'd be going to TV.
Yeah,
if they reach a mutual agreement.
He's been doing it a long time. All right, so quickly here, let's Sinkers Beverages, everybody. Sinkers Beverages. I want to ask you to wrap up the show, like what your official list is right now. So regardless of if can they go get him or are the Titans interested, who do you think would do the best job? So I'll ask you that coming up in a little bit. Sinkers Beverages for all your beverage needs. Look, 5-time Liquor Store of the Year, award-winning craft beer walk-in fridge. You got the THC corner. You got mocktails. You got bar gear in there. You got a huge bourbon selection. Sign up for the in-crowd. They'll give you allocations on weekends, on Thursdays and Fridays and Saturdays. They generally do free tastings of all kinds of cool stuff in there. So sometimes it's bourbon, sometimes it's wine, sometimes it's champagne. Every time I go in there, though, if it's like, hey, I'm looking for some wine, I don't know anything about this, they might have something on display on Thursday or Friday, let you taste it, and then you can decide if it's going to be right for your needs. I'm just telling you, they're a full-service operation. There's a reason they've won 5-time Liquor Store of the Year awards, as voted on by you, the Nashvillians. All right, so somebody said, I did want to ask you about this. What does media sheriff PK think about Lynn Jones's comments to Liam Cohen? Personally, I think it's weird. So this is a woman in the Jacksonville press conference following the loss to the Bills where she kind of was just, I don't even know what to explain it. I mean, it's a perfectly nice sentiment. Totally wrong time to do it. But basically just, I don't want to say glazing Liam Cohen, but just, I'm so proud of you and I have so much respect for you and I feel bad for you and all this stuff. When you saw the clip, your head is still attached to your body, so it didn't explode. But when you saw the clip, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I felt physically sick. I mean, it sounded like grandma being in there. I don't know why she's credentialed or what she's doing. Never mind that's completely inappropriate for the situation, but she's taken up time during which you can get a legitimate answer on a legitimate subject pertaining to the game or the team's future. Now, the Cincinnati ESPN guy, whose name might have been Ben Baby, he did a three post thread this morning on Twitter and kind of just said, like, we can't win this argument anymore, the journalists, so we need to stop. And I said, we can't win it anymore, but do we need to stop or should we always engage in the battle? And maybe I need to stop or spend less time on it or whatever. Pat McAfee came out with a huge, screed about it. These sports writers, don't love the game and take the fun out of it. And this is representative of that. And you guys suck, blah, blah, blah. To which I responded, hey, Pat, you have, you said, none of us on this show are from that background and we're a massive success, yada, yada. And I said, hey, Pat, you have two large segments as your major guests. One are athletes and coaches. Who's the other one? Because I see like Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport or Heather Dinich or people like that on his show all the time. Who does he think they are? Is that's grandma that was at Liam Cohen's? When is she on his show?
How dare you, Paul, think that a time for question and answer should be reserved for questions and answers, PK? How dare you?
So look, you can hate us and you can have it all blurred that the basement blogger and somebody who's out at the facility building relationships and talking to people all the time are the same. You can think that if you want. You're wrong, but you can think it. But if there is no us, the information you get is strictly what the team wants out. They're never asked about stuff that is less comfortable, and we're never discussing that. We're strictly speculating on it. We're never hearing from the player or the coach or seeing them answer it. If that's the world you want, I mean, we're heading there, so congratulations.
There was another moment, I think Ben Baby actually posted this one too. I missed this, that apparently a reporter covering Cleveland, I think in the second to last game, had said something. It wasn't nearly as like over the top as this woman in Jacksonville, but he basically was like, look, I'm not going to Cincinnati for the final game. And if this is the last time we talk to you, then if that's the last time I talk to you, I just want to say, I respect you. And, it was a little different. It was a little bit more appropriate, but still in the same vein. And people are like, they're pulling up all they're pulling up all these folks on the internet that don't understand, to your point, are pulling up all these clips of people doing something similar and saying, look, it happened over here. It's okay. And we're like, no, that one's wrong too. Like, they're all wrong.
I mean, that is partially the fault of PR. That it strikes me, if a guy's saying that he can't get 30 seconds with Stefanski on a walk away from the podium. And that's a huge part of the problem, because we all had a moment like that with Mike McCoy, just not with the camera running. It's not for everybody. That's a private moment for me to have with Mike McCoy, which I had, where I shook his hand and I said, hey, I appreciate that we came a long way over the course of time. Good luck. But that's not for you. That's for me and him.
I started listening to that clip and I was like, oh my God, this is happening. And the very first thing I thought of was, God, I wish you were sitting in the press conference.
Everybody apparently thinks of me on all these. I mean, I got a lot of tweets last night about that woman.
I believe it.
And look, she works for some sort of media. So, but here's the other thing. There are a lot of people, Titans have this, a lot of guys who are very comfortable in the post-game press conference who are not at any other press conference, and they have no idea about press conference decorum. And I think that you should have to sit in PR or with PR at some point and have a lesson, or be managed by the press, which I have no problem doing. I tell guys, like, what the hell are you doing? Or be required to be at some other press conference at some time. And if you haven't been at a training camp press conference that's inconvenient for you, whatever your other job is, to see how it works, then you can't be at a game day press conference.
I'm like the other way around. I'm at all the training camp press conferences and all the small ones and never the big ones. All right. So I had to ask you about that because I saw it and I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to ask him about it.
I almost tweeted Mark Long from AP, who I'm good friends with, is one of the Jaguars, one of the two main people on the Jaguars beat. And he commented on it. And I wanted to say, like, manage your room, man. But I knew that would just get taken out of context and out of control. But there is an element of that. Like, there are senior people in the room and you kind of follow the lead of the senior people in the room. If you're new, I don't know if she's new or not, but she should know to follow the AP guy and the ESPN guy and the Times Union people.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of big newspapers in Florida. All right. So Singer's Beverages, everybody. I just wanted to ask you about that. How about I want you to give me, I don't know what your top tier is. Is it one guy? Is it three guys? Is it six guys? I want you to give me your top tier, where your article, when you sit down to write the article before the press conference, just in reaction to the hiring news, that I think this will work. I like this. Your review would be positive. Who is on the top tier, and in what order is your top tier?
I think I would go Harbaugh, Stefanski, Saleh, and McDaniel.
You put McDaniel on the top tier.
Yeah, he would be like the line. There's enough about him that's intriguing to me that I might forgive the quirkiness and the I don't know. I have some trouble with the leader of men thing, but if he comes in and says the right things out of the gate, I could applaud it. Also, I have a sneaking suspicion that they're going to be high on him.
Oh, McDaniel?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I'd have him on the top tier, but I think this, to my point earlier about Nagy and Smith being the line, I think the second tier is really good. I think the second tier is absolutely very interesting and worth being discussed. I would have Harbaugh, Stefanski, and Saleh probably in that order. I could be convinced that Saleh deserves to be number one on that list. I could be convinced that Stefanski is number one on the list. I think if you hire one of those three, I think it's a quote unquote home run. I hate that term in hiring because almost all of them fail, but I think those are the top three. I would have the second tier with Flores, and some of these names are not either available or interested. So LaFleur, Flores, McDaniel, and then the top coordinators on my list, which would be Chris Shula and Clint Kubiak. Those would be the top coordinators on that list. And then there's a whole third tier that's like Jesse Minter and Arthur Smith and Matt Nagy. And like there's a lot of really good names on the third tier of this list in terms of who they could go hire. So I think they're in a good spot, man. And I think based on reports, it's a way more attractive job than I think the average fan thinks it is.
Well, I certainly think it's more attractive than Arizona. Absolutely. Jobs I think that may be more attractive. I mean, the Giants clearly keep coming up as the number one. If the Giants don't do well, I think they will have screwed it up. I think Miami, they don't have a quarterback. But they won some games this year.
They got some weapons.
Super rich. So I think Miami's probably a pretty good job. And after that, I think it's kind of Baltimore. Baltimore's the best job. Sorry. So I mean, Baltimore, Giants, Miami. I think the Titans are right there after that, at least fourth.
I think that's fair. Jason says, I'm down. Hire McDaniel. Get an all Ivy League staff with an Ivy League beat reporter and break out the blazers with the elbow patches. Do you have a blazer with elbow? Is it plaid with the elbow patch on it?
No, I have a blue jacket that has blue elbow patches. You can't really even see.
Oh, I've seen that. I've seen you wear that. Yeah.
And keep in mind the Ivy Leaguers doing the hiring. Borgonzi went to Brown.
Yeah, there you go. I could never be convinced that Stefanski belongs in the top 5, says Andre. It's pretty harsh. Ravens requesting to interview Schwartz, says go forth if that's true. That's interesting. So there you go.
Well, they will get permission because the Browns aren't going to hold him back from a head coaching job. But he's pretty locked in there to be at least defensive coordinator. And they could screw him up if they take their time. And then who they hire doesn't want him, he may have missed out on some opportunities.
Big 2033. Braden, why do you keep name dropping Arthur Smith? Well, they've requested an interview with him. I don't know if you know this, but he coached here as a coordinator, has head coaching experience, and is in the playoffs running a good offense. You could do a lot worse than Arthur Smith, is what I'm trying to say.
You could look at two sides of Arthur Smith. Like one, Arthur Smith could come here and be comfortable because he knows how it works. Or you could look at it like, Arthur Smith would come here and he knows where all the skeletons are and all of the bullshit. And, maybe
does that
come
help
and
him?
say, I'm not going to stand for some of these things.
And like Indiana Jones in the which is the one with the Holy Grail where he drinks out of the Holy Grail? Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Where you have to know which steps to jump on that are not going to fall through. You have to read it in Latin or whatever. That's where he would be able to do that. He'd be able to hopscotch his way through the organization, knowing which stones will break apart when he steps on them. He'd be able to. I don't know why that's the analogy that landed on my head.
He could be in the first meeting and say, "Who's that? Yeah. Bryce Wasserman," and they go, "Yeah, you don't need to be here."
Right. My point is, thank you, Daniel. Last Crusade. My point is that I'm not saying he is a top choice, and I'm not saying he's my top choice or their top choice, or that I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying if you get to the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th person on the list, you are going to get to Matt Nagy, who has a relationship with Mike Borgonzi, who's been a head coach in the past. It's a similar situation to Arthur Smith. Those two guys are very similar to me. Former head coaches with experience, ties to the organization. That's why they're the bottom for me, because I think
this
they're
is
solid.
Very funny. A very funny comment. Big saying he's best when you have a game manager quarterback. He's never had anything but the best he's had is Ryan Tannehill, who's a game manager quarterback. So you're saying if you gave him right now Josh Allen, he wouldn't be good? He'd be like, no, you're too much. I need a game manager.
Well, the smartest thing Brian Callahan ever said was that every quarterback is a system. And I actually asked him about this like away from practice one day. Every single quarterback is a system quarterback, except for like the 4 dudes that are the system.
Right.
Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes. Everyone else is a system quarterback. Yeah. So you're telling me Arthur Smith doesn't want those guys? Doesn't want Peyton Manning? Doesn't want Peyton Manning?
Yeah. If the Bills job opened and he was offered that job, listen, I'm a system quarterback. I don't know what to do with the guy that good. I couldn't possibly come.
I'm a system coach. I just need a quarterback who likes the system. Anyway, that's the only reason I bring him up, is I just think him and Nagy are similar with their ties, their experience, their offensive backgrounds. They have knowledge of the people inside the building, and they kind of check a lot of the boxes. I don't think you have to go below the two of them on the list. I don't care which one you like better.
To a lot of the comments, he didn't do well enough in Atlanta with his weaponry, which was kind of inexplicable with Bijan and Pitts. But he's never had a quarterback. I mean, Rodgers is the best quarterback he's had, and Rodgers is 41 and severely limited.
Yeah, I agree. So anyway, there you go. Those are the two names I think that are at the bottom of the list. I think every other name above that will be an excellent hire. There's lots of names below it. It's a very deep pool. The job is way more attractive than people realize. Playoff football has been spectacular. Let's enjoy the Texans and the Steelers tonight in what'll probably be like a 8-4 game.
I can see the Steelers scoring 6. I think they max out at 10.
Defense tonight. Gonna be a lot of fun. And of course, we got a whole nother weekend of action coming up. So PK, everybody check him out, paulkuharsky.com. Follow him on the internets, and
have a piece up now about Harbaugh.
There you go. Go check it out, paulkuharsky.com. Sinkers Beverages, everybody, please go support good local businesses more than ever in 2026. We've got to support good local businesses like Paul, like mine, like Sinkers Beverages. We all work together to support each other. We do really appreciate all of your support. Thumbs up, notifications on the YouTube page as well. Please reviews on podcast apps and share it everywhere you see the show, whether it's on Twitter or Facebook. So we do appreciate you guys. For Paul, I am Braden. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for commenting. We will talk to you on Thursday.